Welcome to the Corporate Girls Guide. I'm your host, Chris, and I'm here to help you navigate your career. Whether you want to make a higher salary, learn to negotiate, find a fully remote role, or simply figure out how to prioritize your mental and physical health while excelling in your career, I'm here for you. Today's episode is exciting because we have a really special guest. She is a recruiter at a major tech company, and she helps women land the jobs of their dreams. I've been a fan of hers for a while, and I don't want to take up too much time, so I'll go ahead and let her introduce herself.
Yes, thank you so much. I wanted to say, first off, it's a complete honor to be a part of your podcast. So thank you so much for inviting me. You guys may know me as Christy Kennebrew. In my 9 to 5, you may know me as a technical recruiter at Microsoft. And in my 5 to 9, you may know me as Get Me Hired Christy, where I help candidates get into entry-level roles and use their transferable skills to find roles in tech. So that's a little bit about me, and I'm super excited to be here.
Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to speak with me today and to share your expertise with my audience. I don't know if you know this, but I've been a fan for a really long time. I don't know if I found you on TikTok or on LinkedIn, one of them, but your voice always makes me smile. Like, I can always tell that you're so happy and smiling, like, behind the camera. And I've been a fan for a long time, so I'm so glad that you're here. And we're going to talk about landing your next role through networking, utilizing online tools like LinkedIn to land your next high paying role or to really go where you want to go in your career. And I personally feel like, at least in the generation that I grew up in, I didn't utilize LinkedIn until kind of later in my journey. And I think that it is a powerful tool. I actually just clicked out of my LinkedIn to join the podcast here. A powerful tool to find the right role, to connect with the right people. And honestly, I think it's one of the most powerful tools that you can use if you are currently in your job search. And if you're not, I tell people all the time, you should be working on your LinkedIn, making sure it's up to date, etc. So I'm going to let you go ahead and take it away with our first key point for anyone who's looking to strengthen their networking skills or land a job through LinkedIn.
Yes. So the first thing I want to say is LinkedIn has become so popular. I think it's more popular than Instagram now. I am like strolling through LinkedIn all the time, like looking for jobs, looking for recruiters, and things like that. But I think LinkedIn is super important. And I hate the fact that some people aren't aware that they're not actively using it right now. So just some key points for people that are just starting to use LinkedIn, not sure how to use it, have one, but haven't gotten on it yet. Is do your research, before you start reaching out. So you want to make sure, first off, that your LinkedIn is completely filled out. You want your profile to be filled out. You want to have a really good profile picture, good background, everything filled out on LinkedIn so that it is complete. And so whenever you start to reach out and you're looking for jobs, you want to connect with recruiters. And then you also, once you have connected with them, you want to send them a message, right? But you want to do your research before reaching out to those recruiters. So one thing I tell people is to look onto that recruiter's profile. Usually we have a section where we have the roles that we are recruiting for, right? So I know on my profile, I have in my about section that I'm recruiting for software engineers, interns. And so if you know that you are not looking for a software engineer internship, it probably wouldn't be best to reach out to me. Now, that's not saying that you can't reach out to that recruiter. You can always reach out and say, hey, I see that you recruit for software engineers, but do you know anyone that recruits for program managers? Now, you can always reach out to them. It's important to understand that recruiters recruit for different roles within each company. So you have to make sure that you're reaching out to the correct recruiter when it's time for you to find your job, right?
I absolutely love that. And that was actually one of the questions that I had for you, because I'm a professional, but I'm not a recruiter. I do some recruitment in my role, but I am not a recruiter. And even in my own job search, what if you come across someone's profile at a company that you love and you see that they are hiring for a position that might be a good fit for you, but you can't find like the HR manager or the recruiter for that position? Do you have any tips on getting linked to the correct person? And a backup, because I get this question all the time, a second question is, how do you increase your chances of getting a response? Because recruiters are busy.
Mm-hmm.
Most
Mm-hmm.
HR professionals are extremely busy, and people are, kind of deflated in, okay, I'm sending out messages and I'm not getting responses. So I guess it's a two-part question. How do you, if you have a role in mind, ensure that you're connected with the right person? And two, how do you increase your chances of actually like getting a hit or getting a response?
So a message you can send to recruiters for a role that you're interested in. And also this is something you can send to them if they're not the correct recruiter for the role. So it can go a little something like this. Hi, recruiter. My name is Christy Kennebrew, and I'm super interested in being a project manager at Google. I truly believe that the current skills that I have will allow me to excel in this role. I was wondering if you had a little bit of time next week for us to connect. If you aren't the recruiter, are you able to point me in the right direction? Here's the job ID for this role. Thanks. Have a good day. So that's a little bit of a message, how a message could go when you're sending it to a recruiter. Very short, concise, not too long.
I absolutely love that. And a couple of things I wanted to point out was that you included the job or the job ID so that they have some idea of what you're talking about. Because, a large organization especially might be hiring for hundreds of roles. Like how would they know what you're talking about? And
Exactly.
Also, if you're not the right person, can you direct me to who is? So do you think that that message would also increase someone's chances of getting a response? Because I get that a lot. Like I send out dozens of messages to recruiters and don't get a response. But I always want to say, like, we're all busy adults. Like people have, lives, especially if that's not the role they're recruiting for, that's not really within their scope of work.
Right.
And you always expect an answer. But that's just, me. But if you want to increase your chances of getting a response, like what tips would you give someone?
One of the biggest things, as I've been going live with recruiters and asking them, like, what is something that really stands out to you with a LinkedIn message? They always tell me knowing something about the company, knowing something about the company, putting something about the company within your message, and kind of knowing the mission statement of the company. That's the latest thing that I've heard from recruiters that I've been going live with. Also, I will say, very funny, outgoing messages really stand out, right? Because we read so many messages. If it's something that's maybe has a joke in it or something that's really funny, I'm more likely to respond, or a recruiter might be like, haha, that's funny, let me respond to this person. So those are little things, but still being professional, right?
Yeah.
Still being professional and concise, and not having any of these very long drawn out messages. I get those a lot, and I'm like, y'all really want me to read this?
You know what? I understand. I get those too. And I'm just like, this is a life story. I'm gonna have to put that on the back burner for a few days until I can like carve out time to respond. That is so funny that you say like to stand out with something funny. I know my strengths and my weaknesses, and I can be dry. Unfortunately, I know that about myself. I can be very dry. So it's definitely something that I have to work on. So I'd love to move to the next point that you have for our listeners, some do's and don'ts when reaching out to recruiters on LinkedIn.
Oh my gosh, yes. Let me start off with a don't. It's a pet peeve of mine when a candidate sends a message on LinkedIn, basically saying, here's my resume. What jobs do you have for me?
Do some research.
A little bit of research, just a little bit. I am willing to point you in the right direction or put you through the interview process if I'm able to put you through. But I gotta know what you want to do. I think it's one of those things you have to do a little bit of research, see what's on our career site, send me a job ID, send me your resume. That's fine. But you just sending me your resume and like, what do you have available for me? Like that is a do not.
Okay, got it.
So a do, in that case, would be to send a message with your resume, explaining what job that you're looking to get into, and sending the job ID so that I'm able to point you in the right direction, see who is the recruiter for that role, and go from there. So that's kind of the main thing. Also, we talked about this last night on one of the lives, is being able to be respectful in your messages.
Mhm.
you'll be surprised. I get a lot of rude messages. And I think
Really?
when you're looking, yeah, like just like very rude, like
Mhm.
I can't even think of an example because I'm so quick to just like, oh, okay, next message.
Yeah.
Um, but being very respectful. If you want someone to help you in your job journey, in your career journey, to help you find the next role that you're looking for, just being very nice and being very pleasant.
Yeah.
Those are the type of messages that I usually respond to as well.
I could not
Um,
agree with that more. And not even in a recruiter role, but kind of as a mini influencer online. People do get rude sometimes, and I understand the frustration of like looking for a job and wanting to
it's
increase your
hard.
income, or especially if you are currently unemployed, like it can be a really frustrating place. And I would definitely want to acknowledge that. But misplaced frustration, I feel like isn't going to get you very far. And sometimes I'm like, at least for me, I've got a 9 to 5 and this
Mhm.
business, and you have a 9 to 5 and a business. And, I'm over here, like, I have a kid strapped to my back and one asking for snacks. Like, I'm trying my best to get to everyone, but
Mhm.
a rude message is not going to make it to the top of that list, most definitely.
Mhm.
Um, do you have any other do's and don'ts?
Yeah. One other do I would say is comment under recruiters' posts or hiring
Yes.
managers' posts. Those are
Hmm.
things that could really make you stand out. And I think that that's super important. Now, don't, you know, overpost or
Hmm.
don't bug someone on their
Uh-huh.
post, but you tagging a friend on the post or you saying like, hey, I'm super interested in this role. Just
Hmm.
kind of saying like, hey, I'm here and I think this role would be a good fit for me is really good.
Do you think that commenting on a recruiter's posts, even if it's not related to the roles that they're hiring for, like say you posted something, an interesting article, et cetera, and just maintaining that communication, that contact, that visibility, do you think that might increase your chances of landing a role?
I do. I really do.
Okay.
I think that at the end of the day, when someone comments, I'm always going to go look at their profile.
Hmm.
Right. And if I know someone that's hiring for that they'll be a great fit for, then okay, cool. If I don't, then, unfortunately, I'm just looking. Right. But I do think it's worth the shot.
If my boss is listening to this, because my boss does follow me on social media and I absolutely love her. She's amazing and I love my job. But,
Mhm.
if I ever want to transition into another role or to another organization or company, for people like me who are a little more reserved and a little more dry, it can
Yeah.
be hard to think of like what do you even say on this post, or what do you comment, or when I tell people you should post on LinkedIn, like they're like, what do I even post, or what do I say? Like, do you have any ideas of what you can give to people who kind of feel odd or awkward just commenting under a recruiter's post?
Of course. So first off, you don't have to. You know that you can always send a private message to
Mhm.
that recruiter. But some things that are like very simple, very easy to put out there. Oh, thanks for sharing or commenting for reach. So
Mhm.
not necessarily like putting yourself out there like, hey, I'm really interested in this role, something like that. But
Yeah.
oh, thanks so much for sharing. Or something slight like I'm interested. It can be something
Yeah.
very subtle. To where you don't have to be super outgoing. It doesn't have to be something super unique that you're putting underneath
Mhm.
someone's post. But those slight things, like I love the thanks for sharing, Christy. Those are really good.
Got it. Okay, for me, I think it's sometimes it can feel a little bit like, what's the word for it? Theatrics. Like, oh, I'm just gonna say
Mm.
stuff.
Mhm,
But if you see
mhm.
me
Gotcha.
saying commenting for reach is about to be my new phrase. So if you see me on LinkedIn saying commenting for reach to everything, you'll know where I got that from. Okay, I wanted to touch really quickly on, and this is a tip that I gave someone the other in my DMs and said, I'm interested in this role. They were telling me about the manager, the hiring manager, etc. Didn't know what to do. So the suggestion that I had for her situation was to have an informational interview. And I
Mhm,
think more, it's what we would call it more, what we would call it nowadays is like maybe a coffee chat.
mhm.
So do you have any suggestions for when to utilize something like an informational interview or a coffee chat? What to say, how to reach out to request one? any tips for utilizing that as a tool to either network or make connections or even eventually land that next role?
Yeah. The example that you gave, was it internal? Like, was she
This
looking
one was
to?
internal. Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
So yeah, I usually think of informationals as internal. So
Hmm.
when there's a new role within the company that you're looking to transition into, and you're able to get in touch with the manager, then you can set up an informational to learn more about that position and kind of put yourself out there. Let that manager know, like, hey, I am open and ready for this role, and here are some of the key things that I've been doing in my current role that will really help me in this new role. So I think that that's really good for informationals. I love coffee chats. I host coffee chats all the time, so people can just come in and just talk. But I love the idea of coffee chats, reaching out to people on LinkedIn that are doing the role that you want to do. Right. I think that that's super important. You can do coffee chats as well with hiring managers, but I think a good start, if you haven't, if you are looking just for like a pathway or just an entryway into that type of industry, finding somebody on LinkedIn that's doing the exact role, the exact company that you want to be in, and asking for a coffee chat. Hey, I see that you are a technical recruiter at Microsoft. That is something that I truly am interested in. Did you have like 15 minutes just to chat so I can learn more about your journey and what you do in your day-to-day? Like, that's a quick message that you could send to them. And then also, as you're on that coffee chat, people love to talk about themselves, right?
Absolutely.
So ask questions.
Yes.
I love to talk about myself. I'm like, hey, what do you want to know? And so basically you sit there, you ask questions like, how did you get started? What was your degree in? Or I saw that your degree was in this. How did your pathway go? Things like that. And I always tell my candidates, like, you can pull things from other people's journey and include it in yours. So one of the things at the end of that coffee chat that you want to make sure that you ask, hey, is there anyone else you think I can connect with in order to just learn more about the career path of being a technical recruiter? And most likely they can give you the name of a person. Sometimes they can even give you the name of the recruiter that recruited them, and you can connect with them, and then you'll see the next time that they post a job for a technical recruiter. So I love the benefit of a coffee chat, and being able to just talk to people, learn their journeys, and take some of those pieces and apply it to your own journey.
And everybody, if you're looking for a coffee chat, hit up Christy. No, I'm kidding. And then ask her about herself. No, I think that that's a great tool as well. As a painfully introverted individual, I love asking people about themselves because they will go on. And people, like you said, people love talking about them. If you're ever stuck and don't know what to say to someone, just ask them about themselves. And then, so our final key point for utilizing LinkedIn as a resource, the first thing I always tell people is first make sure your LinkedIn is filled out. Fill out all the sections, put a picture, put a background. Like, it doesn't take that long, even if you're pulling things off of your resume just to get started. Fill it out. So do you have any tips or a checklist or things that you want to make sure people to make sure that their LinkedIn is filled out? Because if a recruiter is hiring for something, and again, I'm not a recruiter, or even if I'm looking at people's profiles and I click and I don't see anything, how am I going to know if they're a good fit for the role? How am I going to know if there's someone I should reach out to connect, with someone? So anything that you want to tell the listeners that they should have filled out and completed on their profile.
Yes. Okay, so this might be an unpopular opinion, but I do think that LinkedIn profiles are becoming more important than resumes.
Oh my goodness, no!
And I only say that because as a sourcer, meaning that I source through LinkedIn to find talent, I usually am looking at LinkedIn profiles first. before I look
Right.
at the resume. I only say that
Right.
because of that. Resumes are still important, but your LinkedIn profile is usually the first thing I'm going to see as a sourcer.
I
So
agree
some of
with
the,
that. Yes.
yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm scared to say it.
No. I completely agree. It just goes to show you as well that the times are changing. So you should have a strong resume. But how are you going to get connected with these roles or these recruiters if you don't have a strong LinkedIn profile? So no, I just have not heard anyone say that. So I was like, oh my goodness, when you say it like that, like it's kind of shocking, but I completely agree.
Yes. I didn't mean to scare anyone. But yes, I will agree to make sure your LinkedIn profile is completely filled out. You want to have a very appealing headshot. So a nice, just a lot of light, something that attracts you. I've seen some headshots that look very mean, like you want to be appealing.
And
You
I've
want to
seen
have
some
it.
that are questionable. Is this
Yeah.
Instagram post or is this your headshot?
Yeah, so make sure it's very professional
Yes.
looking. You want to have an appealing background. Most people that work for a bigger company or, are working for a company right now will have their company logo up. But if you're unemployed right now, if you're looking for a role, I think something very unique to you will be really good for that background. Like when I was unemployed, I had the Dallas skyline up, or some people will have themselves hiking. Something about yourself that will make you stand out, something very unique. But professional, right?
Yeah.
Your about section needs to be filled out. You need to have at least 3 bullet points of your most important impact underneath your role. So when I say 3 bullet points, I want you to include your metrics or any numbers or percentages. I improved this process by 20% speed, or I met this metric 6 months instead of the 9 months that I had. So numbers, percentages are going to look really good, because as a sourcer, as I'm going through and I'm looking through your profile, I'm like, okay, they've hit their mark, they met their metrics, they're overachiever. And so that's really good. The next thing I would say, and I think this is really key, and I'm gonna give y'all a little gem here, to be sure to have all of your licenses and certifications listed along with your skills. Now, here's the gem. Us as sources, recruiters, on the back end, we are able to search different skills, licenses, certifications. And so when we search, if you have these things on your profile, you'll pop up. And so I just want to make sure that you're posting and you're listing all of the true skills that you have, so that I am able to search for you on the back end for LinkedIn, through LinkedIn Recruiter, and find you.
Please make sure you're adding your skills, licenses, and certifications truthfully. And I love the fact that LinkedIn now, you can take their courses through LinkedIn Learning, and you can also do their quizzes and put your skills that way. So you know that someone does have that skill. And that's something that I recently learned, because I've never used LinkedIn on the back end, I want to call it, from a recruiter's perspective, that you can search for licenses and skills and find people that way. So that is an excellent gem. Thank you so much for that. And do you think that recommendations are useful?
Very much so. I think that it's important to have someone to speak on your behalf that you've had a positive work experience with. I think that that's super important. And I do think I've glanced at it. Now, it's not as just a big deal, but if you're able to, and you've had a good experience with a manager before, and they're willing to write you a recommendation, I think that looks really good on the profile.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing. We are going to wrap it up here. And I wanted to just recap some of the key points that you went over to make sure that everyone, walks away with these gems, and let me know if this sounds aligned with what you said. So key point number 1, doing your research before reaching out to a recruiter on LinkedIn. Make sure you know a little bit about the company, a little bit about the role that you're interested in. Don't just reach out with a blank message or, here's my resume, what do you have for me? Key point number 2, there are definite do's and don'ts when reaching out to a recruiter. For example, don't give your entire life story. Don't make the message extremely long. And please do not be rude and ask for a coffee chat if you'd like to learn more. And key point number 3, make sure you're making yourself stand out, comment and engage on recruiters' posts. And lastly, and in my opinion, most importantly, make sure your LinkedIn is completely filled out, because how are they going to find you or know anything about you if you have no headshot, no about section, no bullet points, nothing? So make sure those key sections are filled out. And I just want to thank you so much, Christy, for taking the time to connect with me today to share all of your amazing knowledge and expertise with my community, with our listeners. And I'm so excited to just follow you on your journey. If you can let us know a little bit about Get Me Hired Christy, any projects that you have coming up, or anywhere you'd like to direct us.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. Yes, Get Me Hired Christy on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook is available. Please go and follow my upcoming projects that I have for this new year. I will continue to go live with recruiters to talk about the open roles that they have available as we continue to push through the things that are happening within this economy with all the layoffs. So I think it's super important for people to know who's still hiring. So I'm going to continue that Who's Hiring series. And that's pretty much it. I'm super excited for the new year.
I'm excited too. I absolutely love what you're doing. You're killing it with the lives. And anytime someone's looking for a job, I'm like, make sure you go follow Get Me Hired Christy. She posts jobs regularly. She has all the connections. Like, make sure you're following her if you're looking for a job in 2023. That's it for today. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you share it with a friend, share it on Instagram, and tag me so I can repost you. And all of my corporate girls, tap back in next week for more of the tools that you need to level up in your career.